All right, folks, welcome back to Morphy's Games of Chess. We got game number 29 coming up. The Morphy Lowenthal match continues with the 10th match game, held on August in 1858. All right, here we go. Morphy's got the white pieces, and he launches the e-pawn. No surprise. Lowenthal with the French defense. Look at this. Morphy d4 and the typical d5. That's what e6 is all about, to support the d5 pawn push in the center. All right, now get a load of this. Morphy trading pawns. And here we got our first note. In the book, it says Morphy's favorite treatment of the French defense, whereby he gets an open game. The danger of the variation lies in the drawish character with best play on black's side. Okay, so black plays well. He can easily draw, they say. You know, it opens up his game too. It opens Morphy's game, but look at the bishops for black. I mean, heck, it's a mirror image, right? It's just black basically is just move second, but this, look at this now. You'll hear in modern times you see the knight come out here to c3 common, and the whole thing about the French. The little drawback is with the e6 pawn, it blocks in your light square bishop. Okay, so that's the trade-off. Solid defense, but you got a little thing to work with. This little handicap, if you want to call it that. A bad bishop, you know, the pawn blocks it in. But, I mean, many play the French. Okay, nothing's perfect, right, folks? Okay, so with Morphy's move, basically, look, you take back with the e-pawn, and there you go. Now, for instance, now Morphy develops the knight, and you can see the difference right away, right? The bishop could come right out. It's no problem anymore. All right, so anyway, it's a game, though. Morphy liked to do this because he felt more comfortable with the open game. And it's going to basically be his tactics, right? His strengths versus Lowenthal. Can he match him in tactics, right? In attack. Okay, let's see. Now, Lowenthal, mano y mano. They both bring out the knights, right? The king knights. Here they go. All right, so now what? Okay, now they develop the king bishops. Look at this. All right. And they both castle, huh? Look at this. Big game, and they're just copying. Lowenthal's just copying the guy, right? Here we go. Now we got the knight coming to c3. Develop them pieces, kids. All right, but now here we get the first little difference here, the little variation here. We got the c6 pawn by Lowenthal, right? So that strengthens his d5 pawn. Okay, so now here we go. Morphy developed them pieces. That's the theme. That's the Morphy style. Look at his pieces coming out. Developed them to good squares, pinning the knight. Doing some work here already with this bishop. Lowenthal doesn't like it. He hits him back, but Morphy just pulls it back, keeps that pin, keeps the pressure on the knight, pin to the queen on d8. Okay, so now after that, we got to look at this. Lowenthal going in the same way, same idea. Morphy hits him, and now Lowenthal doesn't pull back. He takes the knight. He decides to chop it off, right? I'm my own man. I'm not copying you. Don't try to call me a copycat. All right, so anyway, not a good idea, because now it brings the queen, all right? He'd be better off copying Morphy, drawing the bishop back to h5, keeping the pin going. I mean, folks, this is another key point. Look at this. I want to mention it. You got the pawn push, right? And the bishop goes back. Now, you don't really want to push this now because you got the king over there castled. It could be a little dangerous, you know. Maybe not even now. I mean, there's some guys would even maybe daringly even just sack, you know, get 2 pawns for the knight. How about that, right? Let's see what Shredder even does. I'm curious. This is a bit risky. It's a bit early right now, but look at that king all by himself over there, right? I mean, you got these bishops of black. Look at them pointing down here. You got this one and this one. Kind of keeping those squares under control, right? So, I don't know. It's still risky. What's the evaluation? He's down, it's pretty close. It's not even a pawn. down, you know. So white we get the 2 pawns for the knight. And you know, if if your opponent's lower rated, you know, you could gamble like this, maybe panic. He's got to make good moves to stay in the defense here and keep the attack from gaining steam. Look at this already, Shredder blocking out the dark square bishop. Maybe you bring your queen f3 next. Look at this, he's coming up, right? He's coming up. I guess to get that rook, maybe bring the rook behind him, you know, and then slip the king to f8. Now here we go, like I was saying, you get the queen over here, maybe start causing threats like this. See, the pawn's blocking that dark square bishop. So, you know, you get these ideas. I don't know, who knows where it goes. It's a totally different game, you know. Totally different game. And maybe you bring the knight over. Who knows, right? Who knows? It's a game, folks. Maybe you bring a rook lift. Bring the rook over if you want. Who knows? All right. A whole different game. Just a little idea, you know. Maybe you want to pop that one out if your player's lower rated. But this is the point I bring up. You know, it's not necessarily a good idea to start advancing your pawns early in the game with your king castled over there already, right? There could be sacrifices waiting. All right, so. Okay, I'm just looking at sacrifices again. But here, that's the point, right? So now here comes on the pullback there by Morphy, right? We had now Lowenthal pins, right? Lowenthal pins. Morphy hits them, okay? And instead he takes, like we said. He takes. Now it brings the queen. It develops Morphy's queen. Notice, Morphy developed the c3 knight. And now with Lowenthal exchanging, with a piece he developed, right? He developed it on g4. Now he moved it twice. He took the knight, which only moved once. Now we bring our queen into play. Notice, we have all our pieces developed, right? All right, it's black's move, and he brings his queen knight out here because there is a tactic. And Shredder does, you know, you can see Shredder found it right away. But look at this. Okay, so he's the queen. He's a queen behind. He didn't develop the queen yet. All right, not a big deal. One move. They say in terms of development, you want to try to get 3 tempos. 3 tempos. So really like 3 extra pieces developed. And you're doing good if you were in a gambit, for instance, you know. But anyway, okay. So now we'll go back for a second here. Because after the trade, queen takes, there is a threat, folks. Do you see the threat? Okay? There's a reason why this knight has to come out. Let's make a useless move to show you the threat. Bishop takes, right? Okay. Don't want to take with the pawn. With the queen on the board, oh, forget it. I mean, heck, if you do this, actually, it's game over, folks. I believe it's whoops, wrong, right here. I think it's going to be game over. Look, what does he do? Queen's coming down to h7, right, with mate. How can he stop it? He can't. He can only make room, right? We could get the rook. We could just move the rook over here, and now what does he do? Right? Let's get Shredder going. I'm just curious now that I brought it up. I love this stuff. All right, yeah. Look at the evaluation over there. The arrow's pointing directly on white. This is all white now. All right, he checks first. He brings him over. You got to bring the rook over to block him off. No e7 escape square. Now white's threatening mate. Queen to h8 mate. Right. All right. So now he can do nothing. He's got to block. It basically blocks with the bishop. What else is he gonna do? Right. Let's see this one. Look at this. He checks. Now if he goes this way, folks, it's all over. Do you see the pattern? Here it comes. Shredder knows it. You got to learn this one. Bishop back. See this? You're setting up control of that f7 square with the bishop. Watch this. So he's got to go over. You check him with the queen. King over, only move now. See that bishop? Controlling that f7 square. Supporting the queen, mate. See that? That's a maneuver to know. That's a queen and bishop maneuver to know. Watch this. Again, instant replay. He goes this way. Mistake. Check. No square but here. Setting up a discovery. Right, folks? You put him there. Can't take the bishop. It's checked by the queen. Right? He goes over there. You go. Beautiful. Instant replay. Right? Okay, now. Let's go back, though. Shredder's saying that on the check. Of course, he's got to go this way. And now you take him. Right? And now if he takes back, you could take with the rook, I think, right? If he takes here, you simply take with the rook. And he's under the gun. He's down a piece. The game's over, folks. The game's totally over. Yeah, he goes here, right? We get the bishop coming into the attack. Pinned, right? Take. Pawn takes. The queen takes. Only square. Rook takes, because you could take the knight with the knight, folks. Let's see. He takes. You take with the knight, setting it up. Look at this. It's a mate. He's in a mating net, folks. He's in a mating net. He's got to give up the queen. Look at this stuff, folks. You gotta love it, right? I mean, when it rains, it pours. Once you got that attack, forget it. All right. So look at all the beauty that comes out of that move, right? All stemming from this terrible, you take with the pawn. See that? With the queens on the board, that's a no-no. Oh, look at that. Shredder likes the bishop. I mean, you knock him over. Oh, you see that? You can make it much simpler. You knock him over this way, right? He can't block in any way. Knock him over. Now there's no way. Now what is he going to do? Now he can't get out of the mate on h7. See that? All that work I did to mate him, which was beautiful. You could see how quick. See, this is what you got to see, folks. I'm learning myself. I'm reviewing. You just get these little patterns, little ideas. You see how it works. This now, there's no escape. There's no escape. He throws in a spiteful check. If you haven't noticed, see, he's got to do something. There's nothing he can do. The computer's totally blowing its microchip. It doesn't know what to do here. It's blowing his mind. Because he's got no way he can't answer this now. This queen to h7 mate, right? Supported by the bishop. So he can't make that escape. See, my move was this. My move, I didn't throw the check in. I went here. Well, now he could run. He could run to f7 and he loses, but it's a lot of work, right, folks? Let's get the game over with. Go get lunch, as I say, right? All right, but here you go. You don't take with the pawn, all right? Of course, you take with the queen. All right, now you trade queens to bust up the pawns. Now the queens are off the board, so the king's not as exposed. He's not as vulnerable to a mating attack because the power left the board. The queens are off, right? But be that as it may, it's still bad for black. Because look at these busted pawns. See these isolated F-pawns, right? Now you see Shredder right away. Right away. Why does he bring it to the back? Why does he do this? Why does he... Looks like he's retreating. Why is he getting his piece on the back rank? He's blocking the communication and the rooks. Why is he doing that? I'll show you why. It makes perfect sense now. Look where he's going, folks. Knight to E3 to get to F7. You see that, folks? That's an outpost. You call that an outpost. Beautiful for the knight. Supported by the bishop also. Look at this. That's why he's going there to E3. He's just maneuvering from C3 to D1 to E3 with the main goal of getting to F5. It's an outpost. There's no G-pawn and no E-pawn that can boot that knight away. So once he cements himself in, already brings the rook first, right? And get a load of this just to show you, too. Where is this black knight going to go? Where's his outpost? Where does he want to go? Look at Shredder trying to get the knight maybe to C4. I bet you he plays B3 right now. Give him a minute. He's got to play B3 to block that knight out of the game. You don't want him getting into the game. All right, he's threatening the bishop. Okay, so material gain. He'll go in with this first. Fine. See that bishop on d6 is hanging now. And he's attacking the h6 pawn. So look, he covers both. Now wait. What did I say? b3, baby. Do I know what I'm talking about? You got to keep this guy back. Look, for instance, you go here, and that knight could come up now. And if he trades the bishop for it, well, that's fine because the bishop's good for white. He's trading off that good bishop. Black wouldn't mind that. And then again, even if he does go here, look at that knight against the bishop. Actually, he would take that off. That would be great. Now he's got some outpost. Now that knight is like a rook. It's as strong as a rook. He's going to have to give up a rook to take that knight out. The bishop on f8, dark squares, folks. He can't handle that knight. He can't do anything about him on the f5 outpost. Beautiful. Maybe you cement him in with a pawn, the g pawn. You know, I mean, he's sitting pretty. Notice the rook can't even come to e5, you know, to try to chase him, threaten him out. All right, so anyway, yeah, he would take that knight, so the knight doesn't even want to go to c4. But this keeps the knight back from both c4 and a4, right? The knight can't get in. Where's that knight going? He's kind of awkward. He's got to maneuver maybe to e4, maybe come to c8, right? Then you come here, then you... Oh, but the knight's covering it. You chop it off, but... All right, but the bishop cover. All right, so there's a plan. You know, you bring your knight back, you come here, you trade off that knight. You try to trade him off. So, all right, hey, totally different game. I apologize. I'm getting sucked right in. I'm getting sucked right into it. See, I gotta admit, I'm addicted to this stuff. All right, so anyway, so there you go. So even now with the queens off, let's see the evaluation, right? After this, you get those couple of moves, right? Here we go. What's the evaluation? What's the evaluation? Yeah, just under a pawn. All right, it's getting up there, 0.8. Maybe it's almost 1 pawn. It's positional, folks, positional. Is it a win now? Well, I'd say if anybody has a chance, it's white here. And those black pawns could be, you know, they could be vulnerable in a king endgame. Maybe you work it down, you trade off, you get this good knight against that bishop. Who knows? Who knows? But black wouldn't want to play into it. You know what I mean? You wouldn't want to go into something like that. So that's the reason why you got the knight coming out. Now it's protected, right? So if white takes, he just takes back. Simple enough, right? Okay, so look at this. So now Morphy, hey, Shredder finds it. Morphy, I told you, these two think alike. All right. Morphy, the Shredder from the past, right? He was just instincts. He had that mind, that attacking, aggressive mind like Shredder, the computer here. Here we go. Let's see. So bishop, what are we up to? Move 12, right? All right. So bishop comes up to f5. Now what's he doing, folks? Well, he's once again renewing the threat of busting up those pawns, right? Here we go. Let's throw in the a6 insignificant move to show you. Look, you take here. Now what are you going to do? Take like this? Remember, he's still pinned over there, right? He's still pinned to the queen. So the queen would have to take. And there you go, folks. Now you busted up. See this? Look, you win a pawn, okay? You win a pawn now. You busted up, you win a pawn. Now the light square bishop is gone, but still, you know, what does Shredder think of this? Let's get the evaluation in this one. I say you push f4, right? You bring the rook up, rook lift. All right, he's not going to even give him a chance. You got to get those queens off. Got to get those queens off the board. All right, see? There you go. And he doesn't mind trading. I guess it's that desperate. See, he's that desperate. Because what you're going to have going here, folks, is maybe something like this. Look, it's black's move, right? Black's move. Let's just throw in some pointless moves just to show what could be coming. You get a rook lift. Look, now you're gonna check and, you know, dangerous stuff. Matter of fact, all he can do is move the king over because he's going to threaten mate on G7 after the check, right? For instance, let's do this again. You just do this. It's over, folks. He goes here. I mean, the queen. That's just prolonging the agony. Look, you go there, and there you go, right? That could be a setup that's being threatened, right? Very easy game plan. Very easy plan for White to play. Meanwhile, Black's trying to hang on. He's desperate. He's so desperate that he puts this here, right? You take it. Now you saddle Black with a backward pawn. What's that mean? Well, let's see. Make sure this is the rook you want to move. Let's make sure of this. Oh, the knight. The knight, let's see. He's going to want to probably trade this off. He's going to want to play. After this, I think he's going to, he's going to trade it off. See? You trade it off. You're lucky you got the bishop right there to take. Okay. But look at this. Why not bring the rook over? See? You bring this rook over, or the other one maybe, but the idea is to control this square so he can't advance that pawn. I tell you what, I don't know. I could be wrong here, but I see you bring this guy so that you could push. All right, he tries to back it up. He wants to push. He wants to push that pawn and get rid of it. We cement it in. We control. Oh, no, we don't control the. We can't play this. We lose it. The bishop and the rook are on it. Okay, all right. I wanted to control that e5 square. See? All right, I'm thinking too quick. So he's gonna be able to trade it off, I guess. So Shredder already analyzed all that. This is known as a backward pawn, folks. This e6 pawn. It becomes a target. You control the square in front of it. Okay? And then you bring your rooks, all your pieces. You try to win that e6 pawn. That's called a backward pawn. No pawns. He's left behind. He's backward. No pawns could support him coming to e5. See that? The f pawn is gone, and the d pawn already advanced. So he gets no pawn support from either file over, the f file or the d file, and he's backward on an open. Now, it wouldn't mean much if White had a pawn on his e file. But being there is no e-pawn, it's beautiful because now White could use the rooks down the open file. See, if you have an open file on your enemy's backward pawn, that's all. That could be the game, folks. You could pile up on that pawn, win it, and then you go into the end game, the pawn up, and these grandmasters, that's all you need, All right. Still got to prove it. Sometimes could still be a draw, but the whole idea, who's got the winning chances? All right, I'd say White has a better position here. Okay, so there you go. There's another threat, folks. See how subtle this game is. Every move. Look at this. So now the whole idea that Lowenthal gets out of this little threat, it's a little threat, is to develop the queen, get that queen out of the pin. Simple enough. See. And you avoid all that nonsense, see? Because if you take now, well, it doesn't double up anything. The knight takes back, right? There's no pin anymore. If you take this one, well, the knight can take. There's no pin, right? So there you go. He's out of any little nonsense, right? Okay. Well, here comes Morphy. Develop the pieces, folks. Bring the rooks to the open file. That's where they want to be. All right, let's turn Shredder off for now so there's no confusion. Because Lowenthal didn't develop the king rook. He developed the queen rook, just like Morphy. To the open file, right? Well, here we go. Watch this. Morphy. Rook to e3. Okay? Rook to e3. He's going to do a rook lift, folks. Why? Well, he could bring it over. He could, down the road, he could move it down the third rank. He could be looking to double rooks. You want to gain control of that e-file. So those are some ideas. And here we go. Look at this. Watch what happens. Now, if he trades too, right? Let me just make sure. Here we go. I'm getting all these thoughts. I want to just double check here. You take, obviously, take with the pawn. Now you got an open F-file. Now look at this. He saddles himself with what we were just talking about. A backward E-pawn. White takes this backward E-pawn instead of taking this way, right? Okay? He takes this way. You give up one thing to get another. Now he's got an open F-file, though, folks. He's got the rook on F1 and the queen on F3 already. Could be dangerous. Could be dangerous. And it looks like he has control of E4 already. He's got the bishop on it, right? He's got the F. He's got, let me just move this so I can. He's got this guy on it. He's got the knight on it. He's got the queen. He's got the queen on it, right? So look at that. Already, get rid of that weakness, right? Get rid of the weakness. E4, push E4. See how Shredder knows. Shredder knows this stuff better than me. All right, he calculates and he sees the best moves, folks. Us humans, we don't have to calculate millions of moves. We get these, what I'm sharing with you, we get these principles. Backward pawn, get rid of the backward pawn. You don't have to look at millions of moves to find that, you see? We get these ideas. That's what I'm trying to share with you, the tactics, the tactical eye, the combinations, where they stem from, and the little ideas that help you navigate all the lines, all the ideas. You pick and choose. Here you go, here you go. So anyway, he would accept it that way. You get the open F-file. You could get rid of that weakness of the backward pawn, E3. All right, so anyway, there's another little idea. So he doesn't trade. Lowenthal doesn't trade. Get this, though. He doesn't like the idea of Morphy perhaps doubling, right? Is that what Morphy, you would double these maybe, right? He doesn't like that rook on E3, so he goes after. He like a nuisance. Morphy doesn't want to lose the exchange. So he boots him off of E3. Morphy brings, get this, Shredder wants to go back. Look at Morphy. He brings it to E2. Right? He brings it to E2. Now this is something else. Here we go. Here we go. Watch this, folks. We got the rook takes. The rook takes rook here. And here we got the note. Right? All this stuff, this commentating is my own. Here we got the note in the book, the second little note. Bringing White's knight into the game, which is unwise. Look at this. Knight takes. And now it's hitting the bishop. Now it's hitting the bishop. Okay, so he gains a little tempo. Now the bishop goes back, right? What was all this about, huh? What was all this? What was all this? You go from here to here, now you go back, right? What did you really do? And you exchange the rooks. Big deal. Now the knight comes into the game. Watch this. So after the bishop goes back, king bishop takes knight. Right? Okay. Lowenthal takes with his knight. Okay? He keeps the battery. He keeps the dark square battery with his queen on C7 and the bishop on D6. Okay? And here we go. We get knight to G3. Exclamation point. Bringing that knight into the game, folks. And the other variation, where did that knight want to go? F5, right, folks? F5. Now, black still has his G pawn. But if you advance this, you only create weakness, folks. You stop the knight, but you stop one problem, but you just saddle yourself with something else. If you go up like this, now the H6 pawn is weak, right? And then you got this. This is now a hole. Can it be done? I don't know. Let's even just see what's going on here. Well, then it's a whole other game, right? I mean, okay, we'll be here forever, right? Let me show you what the obvious move that you might have been thinking. And this is why Morphy gets an exclamation point, to actually see through this. What if some of you youngsters are going, oh, what a dumb move. You trap your own bishop. You trap your bishop, folks. But look, like I said, knight to the outpost. All right, big deal. Shredder's throwing this guy in. All right, you go there. right? Now, the big question, first of all, the big question is, well, wait a minute. What if you take this guy? Folks, good night. Good night all over, right? Queen on G7 mate. Where do we see that, right? This time supported by the knight on F5, right? Okay? All right. So anyway, you can't take them. You can't take them. Good night, mate, right? All right. So now you see Shredder. All right. Shredder's playing a little fancier. Here we go, right? He comes in. All right. He comes in with the queen. Now your knight is hanging. Okay, you go over here. All right, now he takes the bishop, right? Now, if he takes with the queen, now he could take, well, no, he can't. The knight will knock him out. All right, so he takes like this, right? Pawns look mighty ugly, folks. The pawns look mighty ugly there. Look at this. So he now it's white's threatening. King takes bishop. All right, he's going to lose him, so he takes this way. He could take with the pawn, perhaps, right? I don't know. Does it even matter? He takes this way. All right, you take. Now your rook is opened up, hitting the queen. All right, now the queen. Look at this. All right. It's saying white has the advantage. You take here, you go there, you grab this guy. He moves, threatening the knight. I guess you go back. There you got it, right? Oh. You don't want to take, oh, wow. You don't want to take on F7, right? Now, if you take this way, you're pinning your own knight, right? You're pinning him. Goodbye. Right after this, he just moves over, right? What are you going to do? That's no good. Now, what if he took this way, though? He takes here. You take there. The check does no good, folks, because you come right in, and now the rook. All right, the rook goes after him that way. It looks like, look at the evaluation, equal. You know, these rook and pawn games, forget it. They're the toughest. So maybe by bringing the knight here, you avoid the end game. Still with the knights, maybe you got some winning chances. Heck, it says right here you're up over a pawn. You might have a significant advantage here. We're just making the quick moves. But anyway, there you go. There's a game. Okay. But anyway, bottom line is, on this move, right? Knight here, Morphy sees. You can't advance because it leads to mate, right? Like we saw. Beautiful. Let's see it again, right? It's worth it. Nice. Okay. So anyway, Lowenthal doesn't do this. He doesn't advance. He sees that. Okay, so he brings the rook here. All right, and now we got Morphy with the knight going where it wants to go, folks. Okay? The knight comes back. Now, Lowenthal doesn't mind exchanging this bishop for that knight, because that knight's pretty dangerous up there. He wouldn't mind. But so what he does is he brings his knight to help the defense of the king. All right, so knight to F8. Okay, here comes the bishop, right, coming back. And boom, he takes him off. And now Morphy leaves his knight there, and he takes with the F pawn. He's opening up that F file. Okay, now he's got the queen and the rook on the open F file. Could be dangerous. So we got now what happens. All right, brings the rook up. Rook, oh yeah, all the way up here. Rook to E4. Morphy supports his D pawn with C3. And now look at the knight coming over here, right? The knight coming up. And look at this. He wants to keep him back. Maybe the knight wants to have an idea jumping to G4, right? Jumping over here. Well, he plays the pawn up, taking away G5. And now, here you got Lowenthal playing this too. Playing his H pawn up, I guess to support a rook to G4. I don't know. It has a question mark there. So anyway, after that, now look at this move. You got C4. He can't take, folks, because then he loses the rook, right? The pawn support is gone. All right, so what happens now? Now you get a double question mark for Lowenthal. Let me take this off so he's not giving it away. But all right, obviously you can see what happens. That's a mistake. Double question mark for Lowenthal. Knight to F6 loses a pawn. Morphy gobbles it up. If he takes here, you just win the knight back. See how dangerous this open F file can be? Queen and rook combining on the F file. All right, and it's check, and look out. Look out, folks. All right, so anyway, there you go, right? What happens here is he takes, and now Lowenthal doesn't take the knight with the king. He moves his he swings his knight into G4. Okay, now look at this. Now he takes the other pawn. All right, here the rook moves over and takes this. D4 is now hanging because the knight's on its own adventure, gobbling black's king side, gobbling it up. So he grabs a pawn of his own on D4, and look at this now. The knight with a check, forking the king and the black knight. So Lowenthal's forced to trade. He can't move his king because then he'll just lose his knight. You know what I mean? He'll just lose his knight. I don't know. Let's go this way, right? He just loses his knight. So he's got to trade. Obvious move. Obvious move. Okay. Takes. Queen takes back, hitting the rook on D4. All right, and look at this. The rook gobbles up this pawn now. All right, so now black's playing, all right, maybe for the end game. He's got this passed D pawn. But look, very, very dangerous because now we got Morphy, deadly tactician with the initiative, and you're going to see queen and rook versus queen and rook. Morphy with the initiative, with the attack. Lowenthal having to defend. And watch what happens. The initiative in the hands of a deadly tactician like Morphy. Here we go. Rook up. What's this doing? Well, if you can't tell, rook to H5 is threatened. Right? Useless move. Let's see what's threatened. Look, rook coming here. Nothing can stop the coming rook to H8 mate. Okay? Even if black was to throw in a spiteless check like this, look, you go here. Even if he throws in a check like this, what does it matter? You tuck the king in, and now rook to H8, it's going to be all over, right? Okay. So what does Lowenthal do? He brings his forces back to the defense. No A6. Come on, I'm just showing you what could happen. Here you go. He's kind of bringing it back now. If he goes here we go. Let's see. Rook. Okay. If he brings the rook here, let's even bring Shredder into it. Let's show it. If he goes, okay, that's more. I tell you, these two think alike. This is Morphy's move, folks. He brings the rook here, right? Now, why does he do that? Oh wow! Look at Shredder already saying no hope. You got to sack the queen. Look at this. All right, wait, we'll get into those moves in a second. What's being threatened now? Throwing a useless move just to show the threat. Now you're coming around the back door. Look, you're coming this way. You're coming this way with the mate. See that? So now with him fighting against this, right? Because I'll show you now. Wait, I'm sorry. Morphy plays, if he plays this now, right? If he plays this now, well, the reason why Lowenthal moved his rook to G4, because the coming mate, rook to H8, is mate. Well, you block the communication. You have to block them out like this. And even this loses, I think. Let's see. I think even this loses with the queen going here, right? He gets the pawn up. All right, maybe. Well, you do win the pawn, I guess, right? If you check with the queen, the king goes to f7, and what do you really have? I don't really think you got anything, right? So, okay, so you take that. All right. So anyway, we're going to see some beautiful stuff similar to that later, right? Okay. So what does Morphy do? After this, rook lift. Lowenthal with the defense to pull it back. If we go in, he pulls it back. He blocks the communication. There's no mate here anymore, right? So Morphy threatens it coming through the back door, like we said. Threatening rook down to e8 check, and then the mate rook to h8 mate. So look, you got king over. Here's an idea. You got king over, right? So then he goes here. Let's see how this works. The only move is to block. You check over here. Only move is to block, and there you go. Pile up on the pinned piece, right? Pile up. And there you go. The rook is lost. Spiteful check, no big deal. Right? Oh, he comes this way. He comes this way to defend that rook, huh? Now, wait a minute. Watch this. Let's make sure. I see the check. Okay, I see this, folks. I see this. You win the rook anyway. If he tries to block, you could take there. Heck, you take both. Look. You take there, and then you take, this is what I seen, you take the queen, right? Game over. It falls apart, right? So that's winning. I guess this is going to probably come to mate, because he goes back. What if he goes this way? You check. He comes up, right? You check. He goes here. And there you go. You got mate that way. Very nice. All right, there's another pattern, folks. You're seeing the coordination of rook and queen. Deadly, right? In the hands of a tactician. Here, this is Shredder. No different than Morphy, right? This is what Morphy would do. They're one and the same. All right, so if he goes this way, all right, you get him. He's got to sack the queen, and then you look at that. Look at it. All right, it is going to be a queen versus rook endgame. All right. There you go. You gobble up some pawns. There's no contest, right? He's got those two pawns, but the dynamics, folks, the queen, she can slice and dice on the diagonals. The rook can't, right? So, you know, it's a little, you got to be careful. You don't want to make any mistakes, but no doubt about it. White, look at Shredder. A +8 advantage, right? All right, so we'll go back, right? There's a little beauty of it. Okay, we'll go back. So after this is what's being threatened, right? Rook to e8 is being threatened. So now, Shredder says to sack the queen. Just give up right now. You might as well resign. But here's what Lowenthal did. He brought the queen to c8 to defend on the back rank, right? Okay, so now, after that, what move was that? Move 30? Let me just check this out. Move 30, okay. So now we got, okay. Wait, did we do something? We must have missed a move, right? Rook e5. Oh, okay. King, yeah, no, we're right. Here we go. Here's the move that Morphy makes, right? Threatening, simple enough. Mate on the light squares. Check, over, check, right? Right between the defense of the rook. All right. But here you go. That's what's being threatened, right? Now, Max Lang points out a beautiful line that Morphy missed. And it's a quicker win. Okay, let's pull up the engine again. There it is. The engine finds it. Rook over here threatened once again. Rook down. All right, you got to block the communication, right? Here we go. You go there. And now, threatening mate, right? Queen to h8 mate. The king moves over. Okay? And let me just make sure, because look, if you do this, folks, if you do that, big deal. You come down, right? He goes there, you lose the queen now on the back rank, right? So while the queen's trying to stop that rook to e8 check earlier, Now it sets himself up for this devastating, what is it? A skewer, right? A skewer of the king. King moves, boom. All right, so there you go. Look, now if you go here, if the king moves over, now if you go down, he blocks with the rook, right? So you can't win the queen. So look at this. You just win the rook. You pile up on the pin piece, right? So it's goodbye, goodbye, right? Now, if you might be saying, what if I do this? Well, now look. If you do that, you're toast. Look, he goes up, right? You take this way. He goes up. You lose the queen. You lose both now. See that? All right. So anyway, so that's what's being threatened. I mean, that would have been the quicker win, I should say. You're blocking, it all falls apart, right? It goes there, you pile up on them, and it's over. It's all over. You lose the piece, you lose the game. All right, so that would have been the faster win, but look at Morphy going in. He's targeting F7. All right, fine, right? Now, you got this move here by Lowenthal, just like the machine. Shredder finds it, okay? Shredder finds that move. And that's what Lowenthal made, defending F7 with the queen. Now, get this. What would you do, folks? Let's turn Shredder off. All right, Shredder decides he's going to gobble material, right? But look at this. Look at Morphy. He plays queen to E5. You see the threat there, folks? He's threatening rook down, pinning the queen, winning the queen, right? All right, there's the threat. So, what does Lowenthal do now on this move? Well, he brings the queen here, right? He brings the queen, hoping to trade queens maybe. It says right here, rook to E5. This is the old masses, the notes. Rook to E5 would have prolonged the game. White then checked, exchanged rooks, and won on his pawn position, right? You check, okay? Let's show what Shredder does. You check. Okay, you go there. If you block, well, you can even do this. Look at this now. Watch this. You take. Okay? Folks, you could come up first, right? Oh, no, you can't. You can't. Watch this. I forgot that. If this is needed. Shredder is correct. Look at this move, folks. Watch endgames. How subtle, right? Why do you play G4? Well, now you get these two pawns side by side. You're controlling these. You're keeping that enemy king out, right? The king, he could come up here, but where's he going from there, right? Where's he going? Okay? So, if you do this, though, if you come up first, look at this. You launch this F-pawn. Now you can't push here. You see that? I mean, it's still showing that White's winning, okay? Probably because he has the outside pass pawn on the H-file, if I'm not mistaken. Right? So you're still winning. Watch, the king comes up. You gotta trade this one for that one, right? And now, okay. However you want to play it, basically, okay, he's doing this, so, all right, you do that. Now you're going to support your. Now you got a protected H-pawn. A protected pass H-pawn, right? Protected pass pawn. So this would make sense in a way, but I guess you just lose it. You just lose it, so it doesn't mean anything. If he tries to go for that, no use, right? No use. So you can't even do it. That's why Black decides to push this guy up. Maybe try to create a pass pawn over there. But see, your king, the Black king's got to babysit this pawn, this H-pawn, right? So, just to say, let's say he stays closer to that pawn. Oh, you could go eat it up. All right, you eat it up first. I see. And then you launch your pawn down there, or your pawns. And if Black tries to defend, if Black tries to guard over here, right? If he tries to create a pass pawn, if he tries to guard those, right? He's got to babysit those. He can't do anything. How far is he going to go, folks? How far can he go? Right? He's got to babysit those. Why even move the king at this point? Once you take over here, is might as well just try to go for making your own pass pawn, right? You try to make your own pass pawn, which you can't even do. Look, how far are you gonna get? You can't do it. You can't do it. It's the king's there. The king's there. It's over. There's nothing, right? You win the end game, basically, right? I know I'm rushing through it, but no doubt about it. You see Shredder with the look. You don't even give him this F5. You push this first. Push this first, all right? Whatever he wants to do. So, whatever, right? Whatever. I mean, maybe you got to give the. I mean, the engine's giving White over a 3.5 plus advantage. So I think the White King gobbles up the pawns. You always got your H pawn, a protected H pawn at that. And the king could go marching over and eating up the queen side black pawns. And the black king has to babysit the H pawn. So you win easy. You win easy. So anyway, okay. So on this move, that's what was said in the book, the note. You would just check, right? Even this, if king over. Takes, huh? He takes. You could maybe just trade, right? King up. Here we go here. Yeah, you take the pawn. You win that guy, right? And you protect your. You're looking to trade the queens. This could be a little hard. You see, you got a +2 advantage here. It says could be a little tough. Real nuisance. The queen could be checking your king, but your king's tucked away pretty nice, and his is exposed. So I'd say with the extra, let's see, you got the extra pawn, and your king's a little safer than the black one. The black one, you can maybe work off some checks, win another pawn. You're definitely going to try to trade queens at any moment. You try to trade queens. That's how you'd play this. I mean, heck, you're marching these pawns down. All right, he's going to try to stop them, right? Heck, you could have an attack. You get the queen supported with these 2 pawns coming down. That could be a checkmate coming. Or you just end up promoting that H pawn. It's passed, right? So he tries to stop it there. All right, saying king up. Stay out of the checks, right? King goes back. Who knows if that's best, but here's the idea, right? See, you can see. Can you win that? Can you win that H pawn? I mean, can you win that F pawn? I don't think so, right? Got to be able to force a trade somehow. All right, folks, I'm getting sucked in, but we got the game. That would be a win for White too. I'd hate to leave it. Let's see if we could exchange queens, huh? Let's just do it. Let's just do it. All right, he gets out of there, right? King up. Oh, he's threatening mate. Can you imagine this? You go like this, right? And you lose to checkmate. Watch that one, folks. Watch that one. Why not just bring the other pawn up, huh? Is that bad? Let's see. We bring the other pawn up. He's going to try to check us to death, right? He's going to try to check us to death. All right, here come the pawns. They're marching. We're going to try to go on the dark squares maybe and get a mate, right? Well, if he takes over there. Oh, okay. Look at this. He takes. You come on in. Nowhere to go but there. Wow. What are we trying to do? What are we trying to do here? This is what he's saying. All right, here we go. What if he came up? What if he came up here? All right, I guess you go. He goes, you just want to push this pawn. Oh, boy. Push with check. Now you're protecting your B3 pawn. Look at that. He checks. King back. Look at that. He's got no checks. Look at this. He's got no checks, folks. And look what's coming, huh? I'll tell you, ain't that something? Shred is something else. This would be like sitting with a grandmaster. They see all this, huh? Unbelievable. Look at how the queen takes away, the white queen takes away the black queen's checks. Beautiful stuff, huh? All right, so there's just one way it could go. Who knows? Maybe not the best moves, right? But I didn't want to just leave it hanging. You know, you get a little idea what's going on, how the game might go, right? It's a little tough. It's still, you know, you need your technique. There's room for error. You could blunder. But it is definitely winning for white. He's just got to pull it out, okay? So that might have been the way to go. At least you leave room for your opponent to make mistakes. That would have been the best move, I guess, right? So anyway, we go from there, right? We go from here. What did Lowenthal do? He brought the queen here, okay? So that was an easy win for Morphy. Let's take the engine. Well, we'll leave the engine on. Why not? He helped us a lot, too, to this game, right? Now, you're going back. You see how desperate it is, right, folks? You see what's going on. All right, you just win the piece, right? But if he comes up this way, you go here, right? Force the block. Nowhere to go for the king. Force the block, and you just win the rook. Threatening queen to G8 mate. All right, you want to block? Go ahead. Why even move? Look at this. I'll tell you. He's going for the mate, folks. Can you believe this? He's going for the mate. Look, why play around? Let's just go. Let's go for the pawns. We got the rook, right? Here we go. We gobble them up. And then it's all over, right? Game over. There you go. Here's where Lowenthal resigned. Right, here's where he resigned. After this, let's see, you get the check. The king came up, and Morphy gave the queen check. And there it was. Lowenthal resigned, folks. And there you have game 29. Beautiful stuff. I love this one. Great coordination with the queen and rook. Showing you in the hands of a deadly tactician, right? Someone like an attacking master like Morphy, forget about it. He put him to bed, right? He put him to bed. Good night, huh? Good night. All right. I know we went a lot of little sidelines there. We really were adventurous this time, but we saw, I think it was well worth it. We saw a lot of beautiful things, right? A lot of beautiful tactics, combinations, some end game theory. This one had it all, right, folks? In the notes. It had it all in the notes. All right. So that wraps up game 29. Morphy's Games of Chess will continue with game 30. Wow, can you believe it, folks? We're at game 30. All right, we're getting there. We're 1/10 of the way, right? We need another 9 times. Oh, boy, I tell you, that was a long one. I got to stretch. All right. Anyway, we're getting there, folks. We're getting there. All right. Take care and have a good night, and we'll see you next time at game 30.